Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur podcast. I'm your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, and I'm joined today by the fabulous Ellie Hudson, who is a business marketing strategist and two-time founder of Palm Socials UK and Ellie Hudson. Hello, Ellie. So thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. How are you today?
I'm amazing, and thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time in the making for this.
Absolutely. We're going to be diving into how you can become a leader in the online space using social media as a tool. So the first thing I think would be great to start this episode off with, Ellie, is for you to do a bit of an introduction and to let our fabulous listeners know a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, so I am a business and marketing strategist, and I help service providers, online service providers, educators, coaches, social media managers, everybody build and scale their businesses by aligning their sales strategy and their business strategy with their marketing strategy. And I have two businesses that help both sides to do this. I have the Done For You services, which is the Palm Socials side of the business. And that is where we do everything from social media management to launch support, shoot day packages, branding packages, anything that helps you build a personal brand. And then I also have Ellie Hudson, which is the Done With You, where I teach people how to align their business strategy with their marketing strategy through organic strategies and all of the things content, which is like literally my zone of genius. So that is what I'm all about.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, my lovely. So let's dive straight into this then in terms of using or leveraging social media. Why is it essential for entrepreneurs in today or 2024 to leverage social media platforms to help them build a successful business?
Well, first of all, it's free marketing. So that would be, if that's not enough of a reason at all, then I don't know what is. But I think as well, like so many of us now are online service providers. Where else are we marketing our businesses? Back in the day, or if you have, a shop front, for example, then people walking past would just see your shop open and come in, or they'd see, and then it would be through word of mouth. But us using social media is now our version of word of mouth. And with so many other business owners out there doing the same thing, leveraging social media and standing out is crucial to essential success, really, isn't it, online? There's so many social media managers out there, but what's making people choose me, for example? And it's all about personal branding, isn't it? So I think that social media gives you the power to actually express who you are as a person and as a business, rather than like using ads, for example, where you don't get any personality across through an ad, do you? Or there's essentially, even if you did do ads, it's still got to drive the traffic somewhere, and that would be to social media or your website. And then again, there's still no personality coming through on your website. Like, I would never buy something from somebody just off a website anymore. Like, if I was to find something on an ad, I would, maybe check out the products and be like, oh, this looks good. And then I would go straight on their social media and like search through everything. Absolutely. I know my buying behavior. I bet you're probably the same, or anybody who's watching this will be exactly the same. Whenever I want to buy something, no, this was it. The other day, I wanted to book in for a facial, and someone had recommended this person. And I was like, oh, yes, right, I'll go and check her out on social media. And I landed on her profile, and I was like, Well, first of all, I don't know where she's located because she didn't have any of that in her bio. She had no services in her highlights. So as soon as I land on someone's profile, I read the bio, I go to the highlights. I don't even bother with the grid content until I've gone through the highlights. And so many other people have said that oh my God, you were explaining how I do it. I just didn't even know that I did that. So yeah, she had no information in the highlights, no reviews, no behind the scenes of any of the facials. So I didn't know what they actually looked like. And then I went onto her grid and there was just like, it just wasn't enough. And I was like, I'm disinterested now. I don't want to book in with you. And that's how important it is. It's your portfolio it's a portfolio for success. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, it's such a great way of looking at it. And you're absolutely right. I think I'm the same as well. Whenever I look at investing in any kind of service, I will always go to their, whether it's, Instagram, Facebook, wherever, but I will always go to their social media and check things out and look for, either reviews or testimonials or whatever it is, as well as, evidence of the work that they do, again, depending on what it is. So you're absolutely right. Now,
Yeah.
I support a lot of my clients with, becoming an iconic leader and really standing out from that personal brand perspective. So I'd love to dive a little bit more into this from your aspect of the marketing side of things and social media. So what advice would you give people to support them with building this strong presence or brand identity through social media?
I would say, and I've done a lot of work on this on my brand recently, and it's even down to it's about being creative, about what is your why? Why do you do what you do, isn't it? And that's what it all comes down to. And my why is to have the freedom of choice. And I help my clients have the freedom of choice because social media has brought the freedom of choice to my life. If I didn't leverage this amazing business or two businesses that I have through social media, I wouldn't have that. I'd be working a 9 to 5 job. I'd still be in the corporate role, unfulfilled. But social media has given me the freedom of choice. So something that I always infuse in all of my branding is like, well, obviously the name Palm Socials gives it away, but it's like the holiday vibe, the fun, the freedom. Like I love it in my marketing. So like everybody knows me for the palm tree logo, for example, the palm tree brand element in my branding. I've added like 2 pops of colors. So like it's all about creating within your branding, for example, um something that's going to make you stand out and something that someone would recognize you on the grid without even noticing your name at the top and bringing that brand identity. That's one part of it. But then the personal branding side of things, where it's about sharing your values and what do you stand for? What is it that makes you different to somebody else? And say, for example, like myself, I don't have any children yet. But I might be more drawn to somebody as a service provider or a coach who has the same values as me, whereas somebody who is a mum, for example, my coach, India Butler, India, she's amazing. She has now said, because she's got a little boy, that she would only ever have another coach who has a child because they get it. Like, how can everybody's on different paths. Maybe I could do 3 times as much as you could do in your day, for example, because I don't have children and you do. So there's a completely different we're all on different paths, aren't we? So I think when building a personal brand, you really need to get clear on what is your why, what do you stand for, what are your values, and how can you infuse that through your marketing and talk about it. Like you could create, like, my zone of genius is just creating content. So like I could think of so many different content ideas from just talking about why you build everything around your business because of your family life. That is your why. That's why you do what you do, to allow you to, pick the kids up from school. So many people would resonate with that. And don't be afraid to talk about that in your marketing. If you're thinking that doesn't have any relevance to being an online fitness coach, well, actually it does. It does have a lot of that to do, because if you're an online fitness coach and you have your ideal clients are mums, they will resonate with that. And they will resonate with the fact that, oh my God, you're still going to the gym, you're still getting your 10,000 steps in a day, and you're a mum. She can do it, I can do it. So it just it it's, oh, I can't think of the right word, but it shines through, and I think it stands you out from um all the competitors, because you are you at the end of the day, your personal branding. And as a service provider, we are effectively what makes somebody decide to work with us. Even like everyone offers social media management. They don't offer it like I do, but they will choose me because they vibe with me and because they like who I am, they like my values, they like my style, for example. And that all comes down to my personal branding. And it's the same with you as a coach, and me as a coach, even, for example.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with this more. I am so, so passionate about people, and all of my clients, but everyone out there should be who they are, going back to, like you mentioned, the core values and your why, in terms of why does that business exist? What is the purpose? Who are you supporting? Who are you wanting to, change lives for, etc. But it's, it really is getting to the root of exactly who you are. I think on my journey, and I know I've shared this a number of times in my community, but on my journey, when I first started this business, my content was very much like every other, business coach out there. And I was talking about the 5K, the 10K months and this, that, and the other. And everything was very, very samey. And it didn't help whatsoever. And when I remember having like my aha moment, as we say, and that massive shift in my content, where I basically opened the door and allowed my audience to see more of who I was as a single mom, as, as someone at the time I was working full time, in schools, and, and allowing people to kind of come on the journey with me. And that is when I started to really attract ultimately the soul aligned dream clients that, that we really want to be able to support. So I cannot agree with you more with this. So if we were looking at then from your perspective in terms of marketing and content, because I know we're talking a lot about, leadership and a strong brand presence overall with social media. So how could female entrepreneurs then create content that is engaging and valuable, but also, fully aligns with their core values and, and to be seen as a leader?
Yeah, I love this question. I believe that, like, so many of us get caught up in like, oh, content pillars and content strategy. And it's like, forget everything that you know, forget it all, put it to one side and think about your ideal clients. That is the only person that you need to be thinking about when it comes to creating content. I had my big aha moment once when I decided to have, this is when I was just a social media manager. And I was like, I want to serve online service providers or coaches, and that's who I want to help. And then I did some deep work on my ideal client. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have enough knowledge to actually help them. Like, yeah, I can create content, and yeah, I can do this. And like, I can put it all together and post it for them. But is that actually going to guarantee them results? And it didn't. And then I was like, oh my God, I need to do all of this market research, all of this. And then I had this like big like case file of like what they were actually struggling with and how I could help them. Once I had that information, I could create content. And I would say, if you're wanting to really understand how to create content, you need to understand and you need to start looking at your content like a content funnel. And it would be an upside down triangle, let's just say. And the top half of this funnel would be your attraction based content. Mm-hmm. And this is where you're going to be creating probably the majority of your content, because you need to constantly attract a new audience into your audience. Otherwise, you won't have anybody to bring into your services and sell to, for example. So you are going to create the majority of content in the attraction phase, and this is where you need to talk to make them aware that they have a problem and highlight those problems. So this is your awareness sort of phase of making people realize, okay, I have a problem. And then you go into the middle part of your upside down triangle funnel, which is the nurture based content. And once you've attracted them in and made them aware that they have a problem, you need to keep them in your audience by creating the most binge worthy content, which is going to help them solve their problem, provide a solution to that problem. But you're going to give them even more valuable binge worthy content that sort of educates them on the micro topics. So I would say that you're highlighting their macro problems, and then you're diving into each of the micro topics in your nurture-based content. So this is also like you're going to be directing them to all of your different resources. So any of your lead magnets, like anything that you can literally just flood them with information. I love creating content in the nurture phase because I just like have all of this value to give. And I think that a lot of people will also enjoy the nurture-based content a lot. And then you would have your final part of the content funnel, which is your conversion-based content, which is your case studies. It's your talking about your own personal journey and how you've got there, and the results that you're getting for your clients, and the talking to the aspirational identities that is going to make them want to take action, basically. And that those three types of content are the only types of content that you need to be focusing on creating, so that you are constantly bringing in a new audience, that you're basically nurturing them to know, like, and trust you. And then you're going to basically sell to them, so that you've already warmed them up. You've taken them through the buyer's journey, essentially, and you're going to provide them with the solution. Now, what's going to make them choose you over the next person who's doing the exact same thing is your personal brand and your own personal journey and story. And that's why personal branding, it's just so important. So sharing your own journey, where, you know, for example, like Kayleigh, you were, you were the head teacher, weren't you?
Assistant
At
head
school.
teacher.
Yeah, assistant head. Yeah. Even just talking about that and being like, yes, I built this business up whilst I was still doing that, and a mum, and this and that, and this is what happened in that time space, and this is when I, you know, left to become and do this. Like, so many people would find that so inspiring, to be like, oh well, I'm actually still in a part-time job, and if you've done it, I can do it. And that's what's going to make them choose to work with you whilst you also have a family, running a household, you know, living your life. And for example, you know, my brand story was that, like, I was living in Australia and I was working as an assistant village manager in a retirement village. It was so random. And I used to get on the bus every day and watch all of these like videos of how to become, like, have a laptop lifestyle and all of these things. And, you know, and then I found one to become a VA, and quit my job within 6 weeks because I was fully booked. And then, you know, and that was all through social media. Then I pivoted to become a social media manager, and all of these sort of like things where, you know, along my journey where I've done all of the retreats, like, people really connect with that, and all the lessons that I've learned along the way. That is what builds your personal brand. It might be like, you know, the lessons that I've learned along the journey is going to make people go, oh my God, I feel that, I resonate with that so much. And it builds up that trust so much more. And I think that a lot of people just, they hold back their personal story, don't they? They don't share because they think, like, I have two girls in my mini mind at the moment, and they were both scared to announce their pregnancy because they thought that clients would leave or they wouldn't get new clients. And it broke my heart. And I was like, that is the complete opposite. People, you know, we're all so supportive. And usually in the online space, women serve women, don't they? We've just got like the whole vibe going on. It's like a big, lovely, girly family, I think. And I was thinking, it's the complete opposite. If anything, we're more supportive because we're thinking, yeah, we are women and we can build our businesses whilst raising a family and spending time with our family and prioritizing both. And I was like, this is part of your brand story now. You know, you're now probably going to start attracting other women who are pregnant to work with you so that they can have their time back. And because you get it. And then they started sharing more about their pregnancy, and, you know, they've overcome that fear. But I do think, don't hold back anything personal.
Yeah. Do you know what this? Absolutely. I resonate with this so much from my own experiences. And when I started to open up and share more of my story, first of all, it feels incredible. It feels great to just allow people to know more about you. And then it does open so many opportunities in terms of connections. What would you say then in terms of the story piece? Because I know that I've had a number of clients myself personally who have struggled with sharing certain elements of their story. And I know that you've already talked about, you know, a couple of your own clients who have struggled in that sense. What advice would you give on that perspective? Because we know that storytelling is such an integral, important part of your personal brand, and obviously differentiating you amongst everyone else in the niche. But what kind of advice would you give to those that are potentially struggling with sharing their story, or struggling with, kind of opening up to their audience?
I would say, this is a good question. I think you need to figure out, what is your brand story? Because some people have never shared that. One a good way of feeling confident of sharing your own brand story is to read posts of other people's brand stories and almost look at it as like a wireframe of sharing your own. So, for example, at the moment on my It's Ellie Hudson Instagram page, I've got one that's a pinned post, and anybody who's listening to this, like, feel free to go and look at it for inspiration of how to create a brand story. But it's like, tell a story and then give a lesson off the back of it. So you're not just like randomly sharing your brand story. Like some people, this is me like nitpicking here, but some people are like, hey, I've not done an introduction for a while, so here's some facts about me. No one cares. Like, I'm so sorry. No one cares how many dogs you've got, or this, that, the other. Like, they do, but that's just sort of the normal stuff that you can share in your story, and like it'll become part of who you are. Like, people know, I go on about it all the time. I love going for walks in the morning with a coffee because I get loads of creative ideas, and everybody knows then off the back of those, my team get 10 million voice notes of all these things that we're going to action, because I talk about it so much. People know that that's what goes on. So when it comes to creating like your brand story and sharing this on Instagram, there's certain things that like you may keep to your stories, and it just becomes part of your like fan base who know you. But when you're creating your brand story, and that's something that you share, like, this is something that will come across like on your website, your blog, your podcast episodes, your story. It's thinking about, how can I tell the story of how I started to then basically turn it into a lesson so that other people can resonate with that. I think that that's the most important thing when creating a brand story, is like, what was that aha moment that you had that made you go, I'm on the right path. This is who I'm here to help and serve. I would always try and infuse that into it, to be like, this one thing happened, and that's when I knew that I was on the right path of serving this ideal client. Like, kind of like relate it back to your ideal client. Again, it's the most important thing, because at the end of the day, even though we all love our businesses, we're not doing it for hobbies, are we? We're here to help our ideal clients and also make money at the end of the day. But if you know who you're helping, it will never feel like you're selling to them, because you genuinely know how to help them.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely that. And I think that's part of their, obviously, strategy, but it's also part of a bit of mindset, isn't it? I often say to my fabulous community, don't focus on the numbers and the amount of sales and this, that, and the other. Focus on actually serving, show them up and serving and giving value. And then the sales will naturally follow. And I think that's it, isn't it? It's, again, a shift in perspective. What would you say then? Because I know we've talked a little bit about personal brand, your story, and I definitely know that some people really struggle with that. But what would you say are the biggest struggles that female entrepreneurs face when creating content?
Oh, I think that at the moment, with this like faceless account fad that's going on at the moment, and people are there's so much we're all in this like authority era, aren't we? Everyone's like, show up and be an authority, and and then all these faceless accounts come up, and they're like, I grew this account in 10 days to 100k followers.
No personal brand, no nothing.
And I didn't show my face once, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, you've literally just copied that word in from the other faceless account that's posted the exact same thing. And I think that entrepreneurs who are building online service providers, entrepreneurs, service providers, are getting caught up in the comparisonitis of, why am I not growing when they've not even shown their face and I'm not growing? And you're then you get stuck in that action paralysis where you don't take any action at all. I think that that is one of the biggest struggles that people are facing right now, is getting caught up in the vanity metrics. But Instagram is making so many changes at the moment as well. Like people's reach is just so down. It's so demotivating at the moment. Everybody is struggling and everybody is feeling it. And I think that the one thing that I would say to almost combat that is stop focusing on what other people are doing. And I know everybody says this, but if you could dedicate maybe like one day a month, the end of the month, start of the month, where you go in and you analyze your own content, what performed well, what didn't perform well, what topics, what style of content was it, analyze that, see what's working for your audience. But then go and look at some of the top players in the industry that are getting all of the views. What are they doing that's right? Analyze their content and then stop and don't look at it again for the rest of the month. Once a month, that's it. Because otherwise I'm going on there for inspiration. I'm just going to scroll and look for inspiration. Well, you're actually just damaging your own growth, I think, by doing that. I think that now we're not like, do you remember when it used to just be like miming reels, that was like the trend, and it would be like the pointing you think, and you'd be like, I need to look for inspiration because I need the audio. Yeah, thank God we don't have to do that anymore. Oh God, I was literally looking on my Instagram the other day, and I scrolled right down to the time where I was doing the pointing thing, and oh my God, I couldn't stop laughing, and I thought, I can't believe I had to go through that to get where I am now. So anyone who's just starting out and you've come into the era of B-roll, you are so lucky. But yeah, I would say that you need to start prioritizing creating more of good content and learning about content rather than consuming other people's content, because it comes from repetition, doesn't it? And finding your own voice is going to be the most important thing, because if you actually stop and did what I say and analyze the big players in the game, look at their content, well, it's all thought-led content. It's all their thoughts that they're thinking about. So you can't then consume their content and be like, oh, I can use that as an inspiration. Well, you can't, because you didn't think that. No. You don't have that, and then you think back again and you think, oh, well, they're sharing thought-led content, which is their personal brand, because that's who they are. So again, it all comes down to personal branding. And I think that what's changed the game for me was when I learned about my ideal client, I learned what their struggles and their pain points were, et cetera, et cetera. And then I started to find content creation easier because I just get an idea that came to me because I understood them. And then my account grew because then I was starting to share content that was like thought-led too. And I think that all came because I stopped consuming. Like, to say I'm a social media manager, I never scroll on Instagram, ever. So you can create content without scrolling. So I do think that would be like a thing to implement that into your monthly, start of the month, end of the month, analyze, look what people are doing, look how your content, and then come away and create your own.
I absolutely love that. It's so easy, isn't it, to go down the comparison. I always, I'm fascinated by psychology and the comparison theory and all of this. And it is fascinating. I think every single one of us has been there at some point in our journey in terms of you compare, but every single person's journey is different. And I think that's the thing that everyone needs to remind themselves on. Don't look at the metrics of other people. Don't look at these successes. And if you do, use it as an inspiration rather than a comparison, because you are exactly where you're meant to be right now. And your next steps are created by, the strategy, the mindset, the energetics work that you do. And, that's, such great advice that you've given there. I think that's a really, really good, valuable piece of advice to have a look, but look at it from the performance perspective and also the inspiration rather than the comparison. Great advice. I love this. So I know that a number of our listeners will be established entrepreneurs, but there'll also be others that are potentially more at the beginning of their journey. So if you were to give just a little bit of advice in terms of starting or creating a content strategy, what would it be? Where could they start?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, what I would start with is look at your quarter as a whole. I always break down my quarters. So look at what you're selling in that quarter. What's your revenue goal, and work backwards from there. If you have a revenue goal, how many of those services do you need to sell at that price in order to hit your revenue goal? Then you know what you need to be selling in each month of that quarter. Then you can start to break it down into the months instead. So once you've got an overhaul of your quarter, then you can go down into your months and say, right, what am I focusing on this month? And let's just say that you are focusing on selling your private one-on-one spots in your coaching, and you need to sell to that month. Then I would say this is where your like content pillars almost come into. I mean, I don't really use content pillars, but I suppose in a way I do. But I just use them as a reference. So then I would break down every element that goes into my one-on-one coaching. So it's mindset, it's content, it's funnels, it's evergreen strategies, every single possible thing that could go into that you would help on, or that you would bring somebody into that service on. Those are your topics that you need to focus on creating content on. Once you have this big long list of all the things that you can create content on, it's like a massive content bank of ideas that you can tap into. Then I would look at the month as a whole. So let's just base it off 4 weeks in the month. I would then go into my attract, nurture, and convert sequence, where I would look at creating content that fits into the attraction phase. So now I'm going to create content that makes them aware that they have a problem and highlight those problems and give them a quick fix. And this is where I would be inviting people to follow me for more, to bring more people into my audience, or reignite and get their attention of the people who are already in my audience. But I might now be talking about something that actually attaches their attention to me. And then I would start focusing on maybe, week 2 and 3, the nurture style content mixed in with a bit of this attraction as well, but really diving deep onto these micro topics of like solution. So it's not always negative, because a lot of people do focus on that. Like, you're doing this wrong. If you're doing this, you'll never grow. If you're doing it, catches their attention. But I think you need to make sure that you're also doing the positive and the fixing and the how-tos and the this and the that. Otherwise, people will just be like, oh God, I'm just, I can't do this. It's too hard. And then I would be focusing on, week 3 and 4, let's say, nurture-based content and conversion-based content, which is where you start to talk about your story, your journey, your clients' journeys, your case studies. And then just through doing that, you've taken them through the buyer's journey, and then that's just your content. And you would be inviting them in to DM you with the code words the whole way. But realistically, where the most selling goes on is your stories. And I just love stories so much. And do you know what? I get so many compliments on my stories.
Amazing.
Because they're like, I don't even know that you're selling to me. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's the whole point, because I'm not selling. I'm just telling my story, or a story. And it's all about storytelling elements. The whole way through that 4-week content, let's just say, this is what your content on your grid is doing. It's warming them up. But your stories, they're going to be keeping a close eye on you. So if you can give them any behind the scenes, any quick wins, anything that's going on in your world that makes them think, I need to be in your world, that's where you need to be sharing that daily. And that is how I would create a content strategy. Look at what you are selling as an overhaul from the quarter, break it down into your months, break down the service topics. And obviously that was just based off one service. You can obviously sell more things at once at the same time. But let's just say that you were like, I want a cash injection, and I'm going to do it off my one-on-one services. So I'm just going to go all in on that service and not speak about anything else. That's what I would do.
Amazing. Incredible. I hope everyone made notes on that one, because it's great advice and a really clear guideline really in terms of how to start with creating a content strategy. And I'm sure if you want to find out more, then obviously go and connect with Ellie over on socials, which we'll share the details of very, very shortly. So we're coming towards the end of the episode, Ellie, and I would love to know what your final piece or one main piece of advice would be for our listeners today.
Oh, I definitely think that it was what I said before, is take time every month to analyze your own content, what's working. Because if you have, like everyone's like, do reels, they work so well, blah, blah, blah. They do. But if you actually ask your audience, like, I'm really enjoying carousels at the moment, like really enjoying them. If you asked your audience what do they prefer to consume, and they all said carousels, but you're just focusing heavily on creating reels, then yeah, you're going to attract new audience. But are you actually are you creating content for your audience, or are you creating it for the algorithm? I would say ask your audience everything, bring them along on the journey for everything. And don't forget that if you're creating some good content and it's a reel, make it into a carousel as well, then post it 2 weeks later, because you're catering for everyone. And then the other bit of advice is to look at what the big players in the game are doing. Don't copy, use it as inspiration, use it as market research, but find your own voice and build your personal brand. I think that would be the overall advice that I would give.
Oh, amazing. I love this. So repurpose, find out what your audience truly want and what they enjoy consuming. And then obviously use other people as inspiration rather than copy.
Yes.
I love this. Absolutely love this.
Yeah.
So much incredible, piece of advice and tips for everyone today. So final question. And I ask all of my guests this question. I would love to know what your 2024 word or mantra is for this year.
Oh, I love that. I'm so nosy every year. I'm like, what's everyone's word for the year? My word for this year was build. So I am in a phase of my business where I needed to split my business, which was then I made the done with you and the done for you, and build out my offers, build out my funnels, build out my team, build out my support, and build my community as well. So it sort of has happened already. We're only in April. And I'm kind of there, but I've still got so much more building to do, because I do believe that there's 3 phases in business. You've got your build phase, you've got your growth phase, and then you've got your scale phase. So I believe that I'm still in the build phase, and then hopefully next year my word for the year could be growth.
Oh, I love this. I love this. Thank you so much for sharing, Ellie. And thank you so much for being our guest on today's episode. Where can our listeners find you and connect with you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Palm Socials UK, or it's Ellie Hudson. So I have 2. So follow me on both. And let me know if you listen to this podcast. We can have a chat. I'd love to see what you guys all thought. I think this podcast is absolute gold.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, my lovely. And for all of our listeners, go and give Ellie a follow. She is absolutely incredible. She is your marketing and social media guru. So please do give her a follow. Thank you so much for joining us today on the episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And I will see you all again next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur Podcast with me, your host, Kayleigh Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow, and scale your dream 6-figure or multi-6-figure business, then head to our website now for more information, or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.